To win the Roman to her side, Cleopatra needed to enter the Alexandrian palace secretly. She rolled herself up into a carpet, and then her loyal slave.
Archaeologists near Alexandria have uncovered a hidden chamber that stunned the world. Inside, an inscription names Cleopatra directly, sparking new questions about the chamber's purpose and why her name was placed there. Could this discovery reveal secrets about her life, her influence, or even her final days? Join us as we uncover the truth behind this mystery. Alexandria's hidden world. Alexandria has always been known as a city of brilliance, learning, and power. But what many people forget is that its greatest secrets do not lie in the open sun. They rest beneath the ground, buried under layers of sand, stone, and seawater. Over many centuries, earthquakes shook the coastline, parts of the land slipped into the Mediterranean Sea, and entire districts were swallowed by the waves. As the city changed, more and more of its ancient life sank underground. What remained were deep chambers, long tunnels, and hidden passages that once played a vital role in the daily rhythm of ancient Alexandria. Archaeologists exploring this region often describe it as a puzzle made of forgotten rooms. Each chamber opens the door to another story, another ritual, or another piece of a world that blended Greek creativity with Egyptian tradition. These underground spaces stretch across different parts of Alexandria, forming a network that reveals how the city once moved and breathed. One of the most important locations in this network is Taposiris Magna, a temple complex set west of modern Alexandria. This site is famous for its ancient link to the worship of Isis and Osiris, two powerful deities deeply loved by the people of Egypt. From here, explorers have found long shafts, quiet burial rooms, and carefully built storage spaces. Each one was created with purpose and meaning, often serving the needs of religious ceremonies or protecting items that mattered to the rulers. Not far from there lies Abu Sir, another area rich with underground structures. The chambers found here show how priests prepared for sacred rites, how they stored their holy tools, and how important figures were honored in carefully dug burial spaces. The ground holds layer upon layer of history, packed so tightly that every excavation reveals something new and surprising. The Shatbai necropolis adds to this impressive network. This ancient cemetery contains tombs cut deep into the stone, showing how families honored their loved ones in peaceful, hidden spaces. These tombs remind us that Alexandria was not only a grand political center, but also a city filled with normal lives and quiet moments of remembrance. Meanwhile, the Mustafa Kemal catacombs reveal a different style of underground design. Here, long corridors and decorated rooms stretch beneath the modern city streets. These catacombs show an artistic blend of Greek and Egyptian forms, a sign of the cultural fusion that defined Alexandria during the rule of the Ptolemies. Then there are the spiral chambers of Kom el-Shokafa. This site is famous for its rounded descending passageway that curls deep into the earth. Its rooms served both as resting places for the dead and as shelters for sacred objects. The walls carry symbols that reflect a time when traditions mixed, creating a world both familiar and strange. These many chambers acted as the heart of Alexandria's secret life. They protected royal cult statues during unrest, keeping them safe from enemies or natural disasters. They held ritual objects for ceremonies dedicated to Isis and Osiris. They offered quiet places for elite burials, especially during years when conflict made above-ground tombs unsafe. They also protected papyrus archives, libraries, and treasury materials from humidity, theft, and war. Because the ancient world valued knowledge and religion deeply, these hidden rooms became essential. Most of these chambers date back to the Ptolemaic period, a time stretching from the 4th century before the Common Era to the final years of the 1st century before the Common Era. This era brought together Greek rulers and Egyptian traditions, forming a unique culture unlike anything the world had seen before. In these years, Alexandria rose as a center of power, learning, and spiritual purpose. Over time, archaeologists uncovered remarkable treasures inside these chambers. They found a sacred bull cemetery, showing how carefully the people honored the animals linked to their gods. They discovered gold leaf mummy masks that once covered the faces of important individuals. They found royal cult objects connected to Queen Cleopatra and her father, King Ptolemy XII. They even uncovered a large funerary complex that once served temple priests, full of rooms that still hold traces of ritual activities. Yet even with all these discoveries, one chamber stayed hidden longer than the rest. For decades, explorers walked above it without knowing what lay just below. It was sealed so tightly that time itself failed to disturb it. And within this untouched room waited a story connected to the final, fragile days of Cleopatra's world. The sealed room, a chamber frozen in time. When archaeologists finally broke through the entrance of the newly opened chamber, they knew immediately that this was no ordinary room. The moment their lamps lit the interior, it became clear that this chamber carried the careful touch of Ptolemaic engineering. Every surface showed skill, intention, and respect for the sacred. The walls were built with smooth white limestone blocks that reflected light softly, making the chamber feel brighter than expected. The ceiling rose in a gentle vault, curving overhead like the inside of a protective shell. Faint soot marks, left by ancient oil lamps, clung to the upper arches, suggesting that those who once walked here moved with small flames that flickered gently in the dark. Along the walls were plastered niches shaped with patience and precision. Each niche once held a statue or relic, perhaps something too valuable or sacred to remain above ground. Though the statues themselves were no longer present, the outlines of their bases and the small decorative marks around the edges hinted at their importance. As the archaeologists moved deeper, they found clear signs of ritual activity. A thin layer of burnt incense had settled into the corners of the floor. Its scent was long gone, but the residue remained like the quiet echo of ceremonies performed centuries earlier. Water channels ran along parts of the chamber, shaped to guide purified or sacred water during rites. These channels were built with a level of care that showed how important cleanliness and ritual purity were to the people who once used this space. Near the southern side of the room, the team noticed small square impressions cut into the stone. These were embedded sockets that likely once held wooden beams. The beams, now long decayed, may have supported a canopy or curtain used during sacred events. Details like this helped researchers understand that the chamber served as an active ritual center, not just a storage place. The chamber's design also revealed something deeper. Its orientation matched patterns connected to the cycles of the sun and moon. This was a strong sign that the room played a role in the worship of Isis, the goddess Cleopatra admired and honored throughout her reign. Aligning structures with celestial bodies was a traditional practice in ancient Egypt, and its presence here tied the chamber to a world of myth, rebirth, and divine protection. Geologists studying the entrance found that the chamber had been sealed on purpose. The stones blocking the doorway were placed with precision, and there were no signs of collapse or natural destruction. Someone, long ago, decided that this room needed to be hidden from the world. The reasons matched the dangers that followed the fall of the Ptolemies. After Cleopatra's defeat, Roman forces controlled Egypt and often targeted symbols linked to her reign. By sealing the chamber, temple priests protected sacred objects, political records, or royal memorabilia that might have been destroyed. These rooms also offered safety during moments of unrest. War, civil conflict, and foreign rule made it necessary to protect valuable items from theft or desecration. Hidden chambers acted like vaults, guarding treasures until better times returned. Near the far end of the room, archaeologists discovered something unexpected. A side corridor branched away from the main chamber, but its entrance was heavily blocked by layers of ancient sediment. This suggested that the chamber was not isolated, but part of a much larger underground network. The blocked corridor may lead to deeper rooms, uncharted passages, or even sections of the temple that have been lost to time. The team knew the chamber was important, but everything changed when conservators cleaned the salt deposits off the north-facing wall. What they uncovered next would tie this hidden room to one of the most powerful figures in Alexandria's history. Cleopatra named inside the chamber. When the salt deposits on the north wall finally lifted, the chamber revealed its greatest secret. For a moment, the archaeologists stood still, unable to speak. Carved into the soft, pale limestone was a line of Greek text. The letters were clear, elegant, and shaped with a firm hand. They read, Cleopatra, the goddess, beloved of her father. Even without sound, the inscription felt alive, as if it had waited through centuries of darkness for someone to remember the queen it praised. Seeing Cleopatra's name inside a sealed chamber was rare, very rare. After her defeat, many inscriptions linked to her were erased or damaged by those who wanted her memory to fade. The Romans viewed her as an enemy, and her image in temples or monuments often faced destruction. Most surviving references to her today come from coins or papyri, but an inscription carved into stone, preserved in a secret chamber, carried a heavier meaning. It showed that someone in this temple saw her not as a fallen queen, but as a divine figure worth protecting. The wording itself held deep importance. Cleopatra used titles that blended family pride, sacred authority, and political identity. Calling her beloved of her father connected her to King Ptolemy XII, linking her rule to her lineage. Declaring her a goddess showed how she fashioned herself as more than a ruler. She tied her image to sacred power to strengthen her claim at a time when Egypt needed stability and unity. The symbols around the inscription told an even deeper story. Just above the carved name, a simple outline of an Isis crown appeared. The crown, shaped like a throne, represented the great mother goddess. Cleopatra often linked herself to Isis, presenting herself as the living form of the goddess. By doing this, she gained loyalty from Egyptians who saw Isis as a guardian of kingship and family. To the right of the name, the faint form of a sistrum, a sacred rattle linked to Hathor, rested in the stone. The sistrum was used in rituals to invite blessings, joy, and divine presence. Its placement beside Cleopatra's name hinted that the chamber once echoed with soft ceremonial sounds. Every small mark supported the idea that the room was not a storehouse or simple passage, but a place where sacred acts took place. Near the upper corner of the wall, 2 solar discs were carved. These symbols represented rebirth and power. They suggested that those who decorated this room believed Cleopatra was connected to cycles of renewal. This was not unusual in temples dedicated to Isis and Osiris, but seeing them near Cleopatra's name strengthened the idea that the chamber honored her spiritual role, not just her political one. Carved dedications to Cleopatra are uncommon today because so many were destroyed. To find one still in perfect condition meant that whoever sealed the chamber did so with care. They must have known that the queen's memory needed protection at a time when political winds turned dangerously cold. The inscription also hinted at what the chamber once held. The pedestal markings below the symbols showed that a statue had stood there. Its base was wide enough for a figure roughly the size of a person. The space around it was smoothed carefully, as if to reflect light around the figure. This suggested that a statue of Cleopatra, possibly portrayed as Isis, once stood in this very room. Those who entered the chamber likely approached her image with offerings or prayers, honoring the queen as both human and divine. And with her name shining clearly across the stone, one question grew louder. Who exactly was this woman? Powerful enough to be honored in secret, beloved enough to be protected, and unforgettable enough to be carved into a chamber meant to last forever. The queen who shaped her destiny. Cleopatra VII was born in the year 69 before the Common Era, during a time when Egypt stood at a crossroads. She belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty, a royal family of Greek Macedonian origin. This dynasty began when one of Alexander the Great's most trusted generals claimed Egypt as his territory after Alexander's death. From that moment on, the Ptolemies ruled a land filled with ancient traditions, mighty temples, and a rich people who valued both strength and wisdom in their leaders. Cleopatra grew up in a palace where languages, cultures, and ideas mixed freely. What made her stand out early in life was her curiosity. While many members of her family spoke only Greek, she made the effort to learn Egyptian. This achievement gave her a special connection with the local population. It allowed her to speak directly to priests, officials, and ordinary people without using translators. This skill alone set her apart from the rulers who came before her. At the age of 18, Cleopatra rose to power alongside her younger brother Ptolemy XIII. Their joint rule was part of tradition, but it came with tension. Court politics were dangerous, and Cleopatra soon faced a serious challenge. A group of advisors supporting her brother pushed her out of the palace, hoping to rule through him. Cleopatra, however, refused to give up. With determination and strategic thinking, she gathered support and prepared for her return. During this period, she formed an alliance with Julius Caesar, one of Rome's most influential leaders. Their partnership helped her reclaim her throne and position herself as a strong ruler. She later built a similar alliance with Mark Antony, another powerful Roman figure. Through these relationships, Cleopatra protected Egypt at a time when many other kingdoms fell under Roman control. Cleopatra's intelligence stretched far beyond politics. She spoke several languages, understood diplomacy, and managed economic challenges with a calm mind. One of her greatest achievements came during a time of famine. She introduced grain taxation measures that helped stabilize the economy and protect her people. This careful management kept Egypt steady during years when hunger could have caused chaos. Her military and naval strategies also strengthened Alexandria's influence. She oversaw fleets, supported soldiers, and ensured that Egypt stayed ready for threats. Cleopatra never ruled from a distance. She engaged directly with her commanders and advisors, showing confidence and leadership. Her presence in Rome became legendary. She visited the city as a queen, carrying herself with grace and pride. Roman society watched her carefully. Some admired her brilliance, while others feared her influence. Her arrival at Tarsus to meet Mark Antony became one of the most famous moments of her life. She used rich decoration, bright colors, and dramatic presentation to make a powerful impression. It was not vanity, it was strategy. Cleopatra understood how spectacle could shape political outcomes. Ancient writers often described her with mixed opinions. Some praised her for being skilled, clever, and powerful. Others wrote harshly about her, shaped by Roman views and political propaganda. But modern scholars recognize her as a capable leader who guided Egypt during one of its most challenging eras. Cleopatra shaped her identity with purpose. She was not only a queen, but also a symbol. Through religious ties to Isis, through her mastery of languages, and through her political alliances, she built a world in which she stood at the center. She crafted her rule with care, balancing tradition and innovation, strength and diplomacy. And this is why her name, carved deep inside an underground chamber, feels so significant. Those who honored her saw her not only as a ruler of Egypt, but also as a goddess in her own right. But Cleopatra was not merely a queen. She fashioned herself as something far greater, blending earthly power with divine meaning. The queen who became a goddess. Cleopatra VII understood power in a way few rulers ever have. She knew that a crown alone did not keep a kingdom safe. Egypt was a land shaped by ancient rituals, sacred stories, and the living presence of its gods. To lead such a land, she needed more than royal blood. She needed divine identity, and she chose the most powerful goddess she could, Isis. Isis stood for motherhood, kingship, healing, and magic. She was a guardian of families and a symbol of strength when times were dark. Across Egypt, people honored her with songs and offerings. By linking herself to Isis, Cleopatra tied her rule to something older and deeper than politics. She became not just a queen on a throne, but a living spirit of the goddess herself. This connection was not accidental. It was a careful, brilliant strategy. Cleopatra ruled a kingdom divided between Greek and Egyptian elites. These groups came from different traditions and often struggled to trust one another, but both respected Isis. By presenting herself as the chosen form of this goddess, Cleopatra created unity. Her image became a bridge between cultures. Greek nobles saw her as a wise leader with divine support. Egyptians saw her as a protector tied to their sacred stories. In this way, religion became her strongest political tool. At Osiris Magna, a temple complex west of Alexandria, Isis rituals played a major role. This temple honored the story of Osiris, the divine king who was restored to life by Isis. Each year, priests held ceremonies that reenacted his resurrection. These rituals took place in sacred rooms and hidden passageways. Some ceremonies lasted through the night, lit by oil lamps that gave soft, flickering light. People believed these rites protected Egypt's rulers and kept the cycle of life strong. Night processions also moved through the temple grounds. Priests walked with lamps carrying images of the goddess and chanting prayers for protection. These ceremonies celebrated Isis as the mother of Horus, the god linked to kingship. For a queen who wanted to appear as a divine guardian, these traditions supported Cleopatra's image perfectly. Cleopatra's temple depictions show her dressed in a way meant to mirror Isis. She wore the tripartite wig, a style connected to sacred queenship. On her head rested the Isis crown, formed by cow horns holding a solar disk. Sometimes, she also wore the vulture headdress, a symbol reserved only for queens. Every detail highlighted her link to motherhood, protection, and divine strength. This religious identity explains why objects connected to her might be hidden underground. When danger rose and political storms threatened Egypt, sacred items linked to Cleopatra's divine role needed protection. Temples sometimes hid statues, papyri, and ritual tools in underground chambers. These spaces were safe from conflict, humidity, and watchful enemies. After Cleopatra's death and the fall of the Ptolemaic dynasty, the Romans tightened their grip on Egypt. They feared symbols that kept her memory alive. Many Isis temples faced suppression. Objects linked to Cleopatra, especially those showing her as a goddess, were at risk. In such a climate, hiding items beneath a temple made sense. It was a way to guard not just physical objects, but also the queen's sacred image. And what archaeologists found beneath the debris suggests her devotees acted quickly to save important relics. Treasures of a forgotten sanctuary. When archaeologists entered the chamber and cleared the soil, they began to uncover items that told a story of devotion, ritual, and protection. These objects were not ordinary possessions. They were tools and symbols used in ceremonies that honored Isis, and through her, Cleopatra. Each piece revealed a small part of a much larger world. Inside sacred rooms linked to Isis worship, certain items were always present. One was the sistrum, a bronze or gold rattle used to call the goddess's presence. Priests shook it during ceremonies, believing its sound brought joy and divine protection. Finding one in a chamber like this confirmed that rituals once took place here. The shine of metal, even if worn by time, showed that the object was crafted with care. Miniature offering bowls also appeared among the debris. These small dishes held oils, grains, or incense. During ceremonies, priests placed them before statues or sacred symbols. They created a connection between humans and the divine. Such bowls were simple, but their purpose was powerful. Fragments of alabaster containers lay near the bowls. These containers once held ritual oils. Their smooth surface and soft glow made them ideal for storing precious substances. Oils were essential in purification rites. Priests used them to bless statues, cleanse altars, or anoint participants in sacred ceremonies. The presence of these containers suggested that the chamber played an active role in temple life. Near the wall, archaeologists found pieces of wooden boxes. These boxes once protected papyri, scrolls containing sacred texts, hymns, or instructions for rituals. The wood had darkened with age, but its form was still clear. Sacred texts were among the most treasured items in temples. Storing them underground protected them from humidity, fire, or political destruction. Alongside these pieces, strips of fabric also appeared. These fabrics were likely part of religious garments worn by priests. Their texture, though weakened by time, still showed the fine weaving used for ceremonial clothing. These garments were not daily wear. They were used only in the presence of holy images and during important rituals. Among the objects recovered, several pieces dated clearly to Cleopatra's era. One was a small gold leaf fragment. Its delicate shape suggested it once covered a ceremonial casing or decorative surface. Gold leaf was often used to highlight divine figures or sacred scenes. Its presence hinted that something precious, perhaps a small shrine or an image of a goddess, once stood in the room. Another item was a blue-painted amulet showing Isis nursing the infant Horus. This scene symbolized royal protection and the passing of divine right from mother to child. The amulet's color, made from Egyptian blue pigment, still held its strength. It reflected light softly, as if the symbol had never fully lost its power. Seal impressions also appeared, stamped into small pieces of clay. These impressions matched records from Ptolemaic administrative offices. They showed that the chamber stored items recognized and protected by officials. The seals marked ownership, authority, or inventory. Their discovery proved that this space was not just spiritual. It was also part of a controlled, organized system. Pieces of resin-soaked wood revealed the remains of a portable shrine. These shrines held small statues during ceremonies or processions. The resin protected the wood and gave it a rich scent, often linked to sacredness. Even in fragments, the wood carried the memory of its purpose. Together, these items created a clear picture. The chamber served as a vault for sacred objects linked to Cleopatra's religious identity. They were hidden not because they were unimportant, but because they were too important to lose. After her defeat, when political tension grew and temples faced suppression, those who loved her legacy protected these objects in the safest place they knew, underground. The chamber may have been sealed during this difficult time, its contents left untouched for centuries. Its items survived because stone walls guarded them from danger. But the chamber does not exist in isolation. It is part of a labyrinth still being mapped. The Tunnel Secret Network. The tunnel beneath Taposiris Magna stretches for almost 1.5 kilometers, forming a secret world carved deep under the ancient temple. Archaeologists call it an engineering wonder because it was built with remarkable precision, using straight lines, smooth angles, and strong stone blocks meant to survive centuries. Walking inside feels like entering a place designed for silence, secrecy, and sacred work. Along the length of the tunnel lie side chambers, each with a different purpose. Some appear to have held objects used during rituals. Others show signs of storage, with marks on the walls that once supported jars or baskets. A few chambers are larger, shaped in a way that suggests people may have lived or rested there. Archaeologists believe these may have been quarters for priests, who served the temple day and night and kept its most important traditions alive. There are also small reservoirs built into the tunnel. These spaces once held holy water drawn from nearby sources. Water was deeply important in ancient Egyptian religion, used to cleanse idols, prepare offerings, and bless those entering sacred spaces. Keeping these reservoirs underground protected the water from heat, sand, and impurities. Deeper inside the network are passages that have not yet been explored. These rooms are now underwater because the coastline around Alexandria slowly sank over many centuries. Roughly 1/3 of ancient Alexandria now lies beneath the sea, including parts of temples, streets, and statues. This natural sinking also flooded parts of the tunnel, hiding whatever was left inside. The people who built these passages did not intend them for simple movement. They likely used them for ritual journeys, carrying sacred images of gods during special festivals. Others may have used the tunnels to protect valuable relics, moving them away from danger when storms, raids, or political changes threatened the temple. Some scholars think certain paths may have served as protected routes for high-ranking individuals, perhaps even guiding them toward private burial spaces that only priests knew about. Many rooms remain closed off, but modern tools reveal hints of what waits inside. Ground-penetrating radar has detected warm spots behind sealed stone, suggesting untouched spaces that have not been opened since antiquity. These hidden pockets could hold offerings, records, or objects purposefully locked away after the temple lost its power. The closer researchers look, the clearer it becomes that this underground maze was not just a structure. It was a protected world, filled with meaning, carefully built to guard the things most important to the temple and its people. Which brings archaeologists to the most daring question of all: Cleopatra's final mystery. For many centuries, the resting place of Cleopatra has remained one of history's greatest mysteries. Ancient writers said she was buried beside Mark Antony, yet they never recorded where. This absence has led many researchers to study places connected to her life, her beliefs, and her final days. Taposiris Magna has long been one of the strongest possibilities. The temple was a major center for the worship of Isis, and Cleopatra often presented herself as a living reflection of this goddess. She supported temples dedicated to Isis, performed rituals linked to her, and strengthened the connection between her family and the goddess's cult. This makes it reasonable to think that her loyal followers may have chosen a site like Taposiris Magna to honor her after her death, especially during a time when Roman leaders were unfriendly toward public celebrations of her memory. The discovery of a chamber at the site containing an inscription with her name shows that people there were involved in royal cult activity connected to her. It does not prove she visited, but it proves that the temple once held ceremonies or duties related to her. This alone adds weight to the theory that the temple was more than a simple shrine. Archaeologists are careful not to make bold claims. They explain that no direct evidence of her tomb has been found. The chamber might be only one part of a larger chain of hidden rooms, each holding small pieces of a story that has remained quiet for centuries. And somewhere in this maze may lie the final clue to Cleopatra's last mystery. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.